it's lovely to see you all joining us today. Thank you so much. My name's Charlie, and welcome to our Last Chance to Paint webinar with artist John Dyer, brought to you by Born Free. In this session, we'll be learning about and painting the king of the jungle, the lion. So it should be a really exciting session today. And I'm now going to introduce creative partner of Born Free, John Dyer. So say hello to everyone, John.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time at your schools to engage with art, wildlife, the climate, and all that stuff that I think is so important. And I'm just really, I feel honoured that the schools will put the time to one side to paint along with me and to listen to the expert knowledge from Charlie from the Born Free Foundation as well. We're going to have a great hour, an hour you hopefully will remember forever, and you're going to do some of the best art of your life, and you're going to remember some of the best sort of ways to paint as well. So welcome.
Absolutely brilliant. And you can find all of John's last lunch chance to paint creative schemes of work, including a module called Precious Africa, and you can find those on the Last Chance to Paint website and also the Born Free websites as well. So do have a look. Again, those are in the chat box if you'd like to take a look at them. We'd absolutely love you to be part of the journey and join us and learn more about the rainforest, about the African savannah, and also amazing species like orangutans as well. So fantastic. In a moment, John is going to start creating his amazing lion artwork. So he's going to be using an online tool called Procreate. So he's going to be painting on his iPad. You guys are joining along today. So as soon as John gets started, please do start with your paintings. And also don't worry if John's going a little bit fast. We've only got an hour today, but you guys can carry on painting afterwards. So don't panic if you're a little bit behind. We'll do a few stops as well throughout the session as well. So I'm going to hand over to John now, and he's going to share his screen and he's going to get started on his painting. And then whilst you're doing that, John, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with Procreate, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just jump into this. So first of all, let me just launch Procreate, and so this should come up on your screen. So Procreate have been a very generous sponsor of Last Chance to Paint, and I'm using the app. There's lots of apps you can use on iPad, but we're using the iPad. It's a really good way to show you what I'm doing. So let's get our paints ready, and let's just make a start on the background, and then I'll tell you more about Procreate, more about lions, more about Last Chance to Paint as we go. Let's get some paint down, shall we? So what we're going to do is we're going to paint a lion in Amboseli in Kenya, and I'll show you where that is on the map in a moment. But I'm just going to put down some soft colours in the background. So the way I'm going to work here is very similar to what you're using, whether you're using watercolour or acrylic or poster colours. That's probably what you're using in the school. Some of you may be using pencils and drawing. So just sort of like kind of follow along as best you can with that. So I'm going to use a broader brush or digital brush here just to put in some sky. So that's not wide enough, you can see. Just going to put that on. I'm putting in a lovely sort of grey, blue, sort of African sort of sky. But you can have any colour you like there. You could even make it nighttime if you like. This is at the end of the day your piece of art, and you can interpret this as you will. So I'm just going to put in some slightly brighter blues in here. This will mix together. So I always start from the sky and then work down to the foreground, and I work from the background to the foreground. So if you work in this way, this will work really well. Then I'm going to put in some sort of very soft, sort of creamy colours. And don't worry if it appears that I'm working very fast. I do work relatively fast, but we'll do some pauses as well. So you'll be able to catch up and follow along. I'm just going to put in some soft sort of yellowy colours. So you could use some white and some of the yellow that you've got there. You might even have some warm colours, some browns, just mix up with some white, put a little dot of red in it, and you can make it as warm as you like. Any sort of colour is fine here. And I'm just going to gradate it slightly as we move towards the midground of this painting. Just going to make it slightly paler in the background there. And this is going to sort of just set the scene. So this is basically the savannah and the sky. Now, in the area of Kenya, where I was painting lions and elephants, in fact, the painting to my left was done in Kenya. I had a lovely view of Mount Kilimanjaro, and it has a snow has permanent snow on the top, but that snow is almost gone. And within your lifetimes, there probably will be no snow, certainly no permanent snow on Mount Kilimanjaro due to the warming planet. And that's a real indicator. And when the snow is gone and is no longer sort of melting seasonally, that impacts the whole ecosystem as well. As you can imagine, if the water's not trickling down the sides of the mountains, all sorts of impacts will happen. So I'm just going to sketch in a mountain in the background, Mount Kilimanjaro. You can use some soft blues or some purples. You can even just mix a little bit of red, a little bit of blue with some white. Just pop that in there. And then at the very top, you can use some white if you want to put some snow on, and we can just indicate some snow. So this is all in the background, just to set the scene for our lion. And we're going to be painting one male lion today. They're great to paint because they've got those beautiful manes. So just work that in like that. And if you've got some slightly darker colors left on your palette, by all means, you can bring those in just to sort of set the scene here. And if you've got some of those sort of more muddy sort of purpley colors, you can also establish in the foreground a place where our lion is going to be standing. And I saw this, in fact, up, not in Amboseli. Well, I did see lions in Amboseli, but in further north, up past Mount Kenya, I saw a lion perched on a rocky outcrop, just sort of watching all the water buffalo come into the water hole. And it was just sort of taking its time. It wasn't hunting, but you could see it wanted a nice vantage point. So just establish some color in the foreground here, which will be a rock of some sort where your lion will be standing. And we'll probably change the size of this a little bit as the lion goes on. We just need to make sure it's standing on there, not basically in midair, so the painting works. So this is just indicating a rock. You can use some different grays. If you don't have a gray, but you've got a black, use a tiny amount of black and some white. So mainly white, a tiny amount of black, that will make a gray. If you don't have black on your palette, I very rarely use black on my palette. You can use a yellow and a red and a blue mixed together, and then some white. And that pretty much will give you a gray as well. So again, you're going to need mainly white to make these grays. And you can just put this on, and then where the sunlight might be catching the top of this rock, like so. And again, some of these gray tones you could bring into the background here, just subtly sort of bringing in it's not a stage set really for our line, but this is how it is. And then in the background, you get lots of wonderful acacia trees. The acacia trees are pretty much sort of like the root of life for everything. And the acacia tree has got an amazing story. And we've spoken about acacias before in our giraffe webinar, but they are a real source of life and the key tree and vegetation that you will see in the savannah in Amboseli in Kenya, which is where we're painting now. So just why we're doing this, I'm just going to put in a few acacia trees, and you can just sort of put these in as sort of very sort of flat shapes like this, almost like umbrellas, almost like parasol shapes. And you can put those in the background. You could have a range of greens. This is quite an aqua green I've got. I can go for a warmer green. Just by adding a bit of yellow, you can get a warmer color there. And just put some trees in. Obviously, this is just the tops of the trees. And then in a moment, we can just put on the actual trunk of the tree and the branches. And we can do that with a darker color, a gray or a purpley color. I'm going to go for a purpley dark color and a much thinner brush. So if you've got a thinner brush at this stage, you could swap to a thinner brush, and then we can just draw on or paint on, in fact, the stems of these beautiful acacia trees. So this is really starting to look like a savannah and a scene that a lion might want to have a look at during the day as it's resting, to make sure that it's got a good view of its prey. It might go out and look for the prey. And interestingly, lions do tend to hunt either at night or apparently in very heavy rainstorms, both of which give them some cover so that they don't get noticed quite as much by the animals. And it's very important that lions do hunt, because otherwise the other animals, the zebra, the antelope, you get too many of them, and then the ecosystem starts to become really damaged by that. So all take a breather and all keep painting, but have a look at what I've done there. I want you to aim towards getting this background down. And Charlie, do you think this is a good moment to show them where Amboseli is on the world map? Would that be a good moment?
Absolutely, yeah. So you've done an amazing kind of background, that beautiful Kilimanjaro in the background. As you said, Amboseli has a beautiful view of Kilimanjaro there, and it's actually one of the landscapes that Born Free works to protect lions in as well. So yeah, that'd be amazing to share that on the map with everyone whilst they're carrying on.
So I'm just going to jump into Google Earth here, and hopefully, yes. So the view here, you can go, looks very barren. So this view here, where it says observation point, this is in fact where my painting, this painting to my left, was painted from. So if you follow in due course our Precious Africa chapter, which I hope you will do, which is a very immersive set of work. It's all free. There's lesson plans to download. We've got daily video from Kenya to show you a daily blog, and then you can make the best African painting of your lives at the end of that. But this is where this painting was from. So to show you where this observation hill is in Amboseli, and you can see this sort of island here in the middle here. This is this area here we're painting with, and it's full of hippos and elephants and all sorts of amazing things, and birds and ostriches, and wonderful African starlings. But if I zoom out on the map, then you're going to get an idea of where we are on the world. So I'm just going to go to here. I'll gently zoom out for you, and this will show you where Amboseli National Park is, and where Kenya is, and then where Africa is. So there's Africa, and there's, you go to up there, there's Northern Europe, and there's United Kingdom, and then if I turn around here, this is the Atlantic. And for anybody who views this from America, there's North America and Central America and South America. So just to go back, this is where we're working on today, down here, okay, in Africa. So that gives you a location, okay, on planet Earth. So a very incredible part of the world. Right. So the other thing is, I was very lucky. I would just jump back into Procreate 1 second. So let's jump back in there. Procreate doesn't like me doing that. Just want to show you what we were doing, just to remind you how you're painting your background. That's why I'm doing this. Procreate's going to really moan with the time lapse here, but we'll work this one out, Charlie. Right, so we also saw and were able to see very beautiful lions in Amboseli. So here's some of the lions. Didn't see a male lion, but this is taken from the 4x4 with the Born Free Foundation, who are hosting us. And I really hope lots of the teachers watching will follow our big plan of work, Precious Africa, because you're going to see our reactions to seeing this wildlife, and you're going to learn lots of facts about it. So these are photographs that I took, and my wife and fellow artist Joanne Short, who is part of the project, took literally from the back of the Land Rover. And it is a beautiful landscape, and you can see these lions are near cover. They're near these palms and near thickets. They aren't always out in the open. They're going to like some cover as well. And this is another lioness walking into the scene. And they would literally play and relax, just like your domestic cat might. Very, very similar in the way they behaved and the way they played and the way they sort of rolled around on their backs, and just beautiful, just really, really beautiful animals. So, and of course, that's not a lion, photos, John. That's an elephant.
Amazing.
And you can see behind the elephant is Observation Hill. That's the hill we were looking at on the map with Google. So, okay,
brilliant.
I'm just going
Fantastic. And those photos were really good as well. You can see the amazing colour of those lion's fur and how fantastically camouflaged they are in that environment as well. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for sharing, John.
They really are. They really are. So bearing that in mind, we don't have to do our lion today that camouflaged, because this is a painting. So we can kind of use our pale backgrounds. And I've deliberately done this pale so that when you put your wet paint on wet, you can still work on it rather than doing a darker background. So let's make a start with the lion, if that's all right, unless we've got loads of people shouting in the comments to say, no, wait.
I think we're doing okay.
Are we?
Really?
That's good.
I think so. Fantastic.
That's great. So while I'm sketching out the lion, I'll do this. I just wondered, Charlie, you've got a lion in the Born Free logo. In fact, you've got one on your shirt there. Why is there a lion in there in the logo?
So Born Free story, it started a long time ago actually, with a particular lioness who is embodied in that logo, and that lioness is called Elsa. Now Elsa was a lion cub. She was orphaned as a cub, and she was rescued by a game warden and his wife. So their names were George Adamson and Joy Adamson, and they lived in Kenya at the time. And as Elsa began to grow, become a much larger cub, much larger lion, there was the possibility that she might have to be sent to live in a zoo. And Joy and George were desperate to save her from a life living in the zoo because she had come from the wild and they wanted her to go back to the wild. So they actually dedicated their lives to teaching her how to hunt and how to survive on her own. And it took a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication and patience. But incredibly, after a few years of kind of teaching her how to hunt for herself, teaching her to live out in the wild, she was actually successfully reintroduced to the wild, and she even went on to have her own cubs, and lived as a wild lion, and her cubs as well lived as wild lions. So this happened a very long time ago, but her story was retold as a film, which some of you might have seen, which is called Born Free as well. And that film actually stars Born Free's co-founders, so Bill Travers and Virginia McKenna, who you might have heard of as well. And they actually played the roles of Joy and George in the film. So to this day, Elsa remains our main inspiration, really. So it's a lovely story, and it's fantastic in showing actually lions should be in the wild. And that's what we try and work towards, is keeping wildlife in the wild.
Yeah, it is an amazing story. And when we were with Born Free, in fact, in Meru, the lion team, who look after the lions and make sure that every day they're removing traps or snares or issues that be causing problems to the lions. They were talking about how Elsa's legacy is still going on, and the family group are still there, and there've just been a new cub, and the population of lions was increasing, which was good. And there was a really interesting fact I took away from that, was that the lions who were born and raised naturally in Meru, in the park, caused much less, far fewer problems to the local population than the lions that were reintroduced. So wildlife left in the wild is so much better, and it also reduces wildlife and human conflict, which obviously can be a thing. I mean, clearly, if a lion walked into your classrooms now, there would be a conflict. So we're for both lion and for you. So yeah, it is interesting that, but they're an incredibly important part of the ecosystem. But Charlie, are lions, are they endangered? Are there lots of lions? Are there what's going on with lions? You know, this project that we're running is called Last Chance to Paint. Is this a last chance to paint? Are they endangered?
Well, we hope not. But sadly, lion numbers are decreasing quite dramatically. So they've actually decreased 90% in just the last 50 years.
90?
90%.
90?
Yeah, 90.
That only leaves like 10 out of every 100 left.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you were to draw 10 lions as an example and cross 9 of them out, essentially that's the size of the population left represented.
Oh my goodness. Imagine if you did that to the school population, or to your town, or to the country, or to that's devastating, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So they are seriously under threat then.
They are. So they're classed as vulnerable by the IUCN Red List. But yeah, so they've gone from 200,000 lions around 50 years ago to just 20,000 today. So they are in danger of becoming extinct. And there's lots of reasons for that. So they're under threat from things like habitat loss. As we build more and more roads, as we build more infrastructure, lions are being squeezed into smaller and smaller areas, and they do require lots of space in order to find enough food, enough water, and have enough resources to survive. Climate change as well, that's also damaging their habitats, and meaning that there's depleted prey sources as well, and less water as well. So as John was talking about earlier, the glacier on top of Mount Kilimanjaro, that's reducing in size. There's less snow each year, and then that has an impact on the wider ecosystem of Ambercelli and beyond.
Yeah, and if you engage in our full set of work in Africa and watch our daily videos, you will see us driving the Born Free Land Rover right across a lake where there is no lake anymore, completely dried, because of a 4-year drought. And it doesn't take long for droughts. You know, wildlife is resilient, and but if it goes on too many months or too many years, depending on the situation, or for example, fruit bats in Australia a few years back, this is off topic, there was a day where it just went another half a degree hotter beyond the record, and like 90% of the population couldn't cope. So it is really difficult. So lots of wildlife areas, including Amboseli in Kenya, is quite stressed by lack of water and drought.
Absolutely, yeah, and we're seeing these extreme weather events happen more and more frequently as well. So yeah, climate change is one reason that lion population is decreasing. Human wildlife conflict as well, that John has just spoken about. So as lions have less space, they're more likely to go into human settlements and attack livestock, which can cause conflict between people, and sometimes retaliations can happen, which can leave lions getting injured or killed. And also people hunt lions as well. So some people choose to hunt lions for fun. And also some people will take lion cubs from the wild to go into the illegal pet trade. So they're taking them out of the wild. They shouldn't be, to sell as pets. And absolutely, lions do not make very good pets at all. And in fact, we help to rescue lions that have been taken into the illegal pet trade, and we help to offer them lifetime sanctuary at one of our big cat sanctuaries, either in South Africa in Shamwari, or in Sesekote in Ethiopia. So we look after around 30 different lions and leopards who have been taken from the wild illegally to be sold as pets or have come from other poor captive conditions.
Amazing, 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 amazing charity, amazing work, and I can vouch for that. Being there on the ground, amazing organisation, doing incredibly important work. Right, how is everybody doing? So you would have seen me as we've been chatting. I've sketched out the broad outline of a male lion. So if you can get something like that just sketched out with a thin brush on your paper, and then we can start to block in the shapes and improve on this. And you don't have to copy me exactly. It doesn't matter if it's not precisely. It's getting, what we're doing here is we're learning about lions, and we're going to remember about lions because we're painting. So that's kind of the trick here. Because we're engaged in our painting, we will remember why lions are important, why the ecosystem's important. So I'm going to start to block in some broader colours here. I've got some yellowy colour, a sort of an ochre colour, but you could use any sort of yellow and some white. If you want it to be more of an egg yolk colour, just add a dot of pink or a dot of red. It doesn't matter too much. I'm just going to block in my lion in basic areas, just so it doesn't look like a transparent object. And then we'll start to then work on some of the features as we go through here. And
so
this
John,
is
some top tips. So your lion has quite a square face, doesn't he, rather than a round face?
Yeah, it does. The lions do have quite a squared nose. Yeah, they really do. So they're sort of quite prominent. And this is going to improve somewhat as we go forward. And there will be some more features on the face of my lion. But yeah, I think that's the other thing. When you're painting, you do observe. You don't necessarily have to copy the world exactly as it is, but just by watching and observing is a very good thing. You're observing what I'm doing. I'm observing an image of a lion, so I can get this roughly right for you. But if you just follow along, and just notice the features, like Charlie said. And this lion's going to have a lovely mane, because it's going to be a male lion. And I think I've always thought of the male lions doing most of the work, because that's what, traditionally, that's how our society would have been put together years ago in a very bad way. But yeah, do we think that male lions do most of the hunting, or would it be the females? I think it's the males, right, Charlie? Is that right? The males do the hunting?
I wonder what people watching today think. They can pop that in the chat box. So do they think it's the males, or do they think it's the females that kind of take charge of the pride? We'll see what everyone says.
Yeah. And It would be interesting. Then we can reveal the truth here, what it
Absolutely.
actually is. Now, something that the lovely Phoebe from Kenya, who's part of the Born Free team, she pointed out, and she was answering a question from a school actually, and this related to The Lion King, the wonderful animated film and the musical. And Charlie, the name for the name for a lion in Kenya in the local language, what is that?
So if you've seen The Lion King, you might know this word already. So the Swahili word for lion is actually Simba. So Swahili is the official language of Kenya. So Simba means lion. So if you've watched The Lion King, the main lion is called Lion. Um,
You know, that film about, you know, that whole idea of the Lion King, the king of the jungle, but this isn't jungle, this is savannah. But it is, you know, where does that come from? So does that indicate this is like a top animal? What would we call that, Charlie?
So they are an apex predator. So they are known as king of the jungle, but lions don't actually live in jungles. As we can see, they live on the savannah, they live in grasslands, dry woodlands, and even there's a few very specialist lion prides that have adapted to live in deserts, but they actually don't live in rainforests. They don't live in the jungle. So if you look on a map of where lions are distributed, there's a big gap in the middle of the continent where you've got the big kind of Congo rainforests. So there aren't any lions found there, but they're found all the way kind of around in those savanna, deserty areas, and grassland areas as well. Moving back to that question we had earlier, so who do we think is in charge of lion society? So we've had a couple of schools get in touch. So some of you have had said females, and some of you have had said both. So interesting. Now, female lions, they will actually work together to raise the cubs. So they will spend their time together looking after the cubs in a creche. So each lion will give birth to around 1 to 4 cubs, and they'll all take part in raising those cubs. Now, in terms of hunting, females again do most of the hunting. So yeah, they're much smaller than male lions, so they're a lot kind of more agile, they're a bit more nimble, so it means they have a greater chance of catching those prey, and they work together. So they'll surround their prey, and some lions will drive prey towards some other female lions waiting. Males, they will occasionally hunt, but not very often. They will actually spend most of their time patrolling the territory of the pride and protecting the pride as well. So if other predators, for example, come and threaten the pride, such as hyenas or jackals or anything else like that, they will protect the pride. Also, if other male lions come into the pride's territory, they will help protect the pride. So they have different jobs, they have different roles. But yeah, so I'd say the females are probably more in charge, but the males are definitely there as well to look after and care for everyone as well. And they'll spend a lot of their time as well. The males, as well as the females, they all love sleeping. They will spend 16 to 20 hours a day sleeping. So even though they have their own specific roles and jobs, the hunting or protecting the pride, most of them will spend the whole day sleeping.
20 hours. There's only 24 hours in the day, so they're up for 4 hours. That's pretty lazy, isn't it? So I'm thinking I know something a little bit about how much a lion can eat in a day, and they don't eat every day, do they? Or
so they don't eat every day. It tends to be that not very many of their kills are actually successful, so not many of their hunts will be successful, so they'll have to spend a lot of time trying to hunt because a lot of them they won't actually catch anything. But when they do, they can eat a huge amount. They can eat up to 40 kilograms of meat in just one go. So if you picture your bag of sugar, your kilo bag of sugar, or your bag of flour, imagine 40 of those lined up. And imagine trying to eat that all in one go. I think
that's
you would
crazy, isn't
really
it?
struggle.
That's a huge amount, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that is incredible. So and there's another fun fact. Maybe we could put this in the chat box for the children to guess at as well. We've got a fun fact here about how much a lion weighs and how much that is in the equivalent of pet cats that you might have at home. Should we ask the schools to make a guess at that?
Absolutely. So yeah, how many pet cats does a lion weigh? So lions weigh quite a lot. How many pet cats is that equivalent to?
Yeah,
See if anyone can
fun.
guess.
And then you can read out the answers. It'll be fun. I'll give you a clue. It's more than one.
It is more than one, absolutely.
So
They are very big animals.
yeah, so with the pen, just talking about the pen, hopefully you're all following along. You haven't had any shout outs on the chat to say slow down or panicking, have we? So what I'm doing here is I'm using some darker yellows and ochre colours for the back legs, which are behind. That one I'm working on now. It's just to put the shadow in. I'm also using some darker colours in here, just under the mane. And you can, it's not specific, the colour, you can do it as you like. And then on the face, there's some shadowing here, and it's a little hard to, to work all this out, to be honest. And then they've got slightly darker area sort of under the chin here. And then you've got this beautiful mane. So I'll add some more of this lion's mane. This is just on the males that have this beautiful mane. So I'm going to go for a slightly more orangey, browny color. And then we can have some fun with our smaller paintbrushes, bringing in the mane. I'm going to go darker. My paint is picking up. I've set it up to work as closely to paint as I can. So it's picking up the lighter paint underneath. And still doing that. So let's see if it will do this. There we go. So, and you'll find the same thing, that you can just keep loading the brush up with some darker paint to establish this beautiful mane on the lion. And we want this to really look like it's got some lovely texture. You might even hear me tapping on my iPad screen. I don't know, as I'm just using this Apple Pencil. I'll show you what, I'll just pick this up, show you what I'm doing. This is just a little iPad mini that I'm working on. And yeah, so we'll just get this mane established, and then we can do some of the features on the lion with that. Has anybody made a guess at how many?
We have had one guess.
One guess. Is that all?
I will tell you though, that guess is spot on. So well done to that school who gave that guess. It is actually 50 pet cats. So again, imagine 50 pet cats all lined up in a row. Put them on a weighing scale. That is equivalent to a lion. So they're 190 kilos, and they can reach 2.1 meters long as well. So, and that's not even including their tail. So get your meter sticks out in your classrooms, 2.1 meters long, and then an extra kind of meter or so as well for that lovely long tail, which helps them again to balance and turn around really quickly when they're doing those high speed chases after zebra, buffalo, impala, warthogs, you name it. Some lions will even hunt elephants. So they
really?
can take down huge prey.
Will they hunt just the younger elephants, or full-sized elephants, or just poorly elephants?
So it's only a couple of prides, so a very specialist pride, and they tend to hunt kind of juvenile elephants, younger elephants, because even a young elephant is still absolutely enormous. So
yes,
yeah,
yes, I can vouch for that, having seen elephants in Amboseli. So yeah, Charlie, you say that they'll run after their prey. That must be probably a relatively short burst of speed, so they'll probably try and go into stealth mode, hence using rain or the cover of night. But when they run after the prey, I've seen a lot of animals can move pretty swiftly on the savannah, probably for good reason. But does that mean the lions can go pretty fast as well?
so yeah, they can, again, like you said, they tend to be kind of short bursts of speed, so they will sneak up on their prey as well, to get as close as they can, because they want to make sure that they have as much chance as they can to catch that prey. But they can run up to 50 miles per hour, so
50.
really, really quick. So over a short distance, 50 miles an hour, but they'll still sneak as close as they can to prey to really heighten their chances of catching that prey, because not every hunt ends in success. So they've just got to keep on trying.
So that would explain why we weren't allowed out of the Land Rover in Amboseli to
Absolutely.
photograph the lions, because they can really shift.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. So yeah, and if they're hungry as well, they're opportunistic hunters as well. So they'll take what they can get.
So I used to have a cat as a child years ago, and I can remember that my pet cat. Luckily I lived at the beach, North Cornwall, and wherever I went, my cat would kind of follow me around over the commons, over the beach. He seemed to have a very large territory. Is that true of lions, or do they have a small patch of land? Charlie, how do lions do this?
So it depends. So lions are the only kind of true social cats. So they will live in a territory together in a pride. So those prides can be kind of anything from kind of 10 all the way up to 40 individuals. And also it depends on the habitat that they live in as well. So if there's loads and loads of prey around, they might have a smaller territory, kind of around 20 square kilometers. But if they were to live in somewhere where prey is a lot more sparse, so for example, those desert habitats we were talking about, one single pride's territory can be as big as 200 square kilometers, so absolutely enormous. So they will patrol those areas, they will hunt for prey, and they'll protect that area from other prides of lions to make sure that they've got enough food, to make sure they've got enough water as well.
That's incredible. So yeah, so it's quite variable, but up to 200 square miles. That is a huge territory. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, because they really do get around on this. So right, I'm just sort of bringing in some rough features on the lion's face. So there's a position of an eye, and I'm going to use some of this darker kind of grey paint just to bring in some more textures in the mane. And again, my paint's picking up from underneath. And you'll have the same thing, but just keep washing the brush or dry it out, and then reload it with fresh paint, and then you can get this onto your painting. And they tend to have like a darker fur right at the end of their tail, like this, and then of course they're going to have their feet, their claws, and then we'll just keep building up the lion and its background as well as we go on that.
So you're doing a male lion today, John, which is
I am, yeah.
lovely.
I really like the mane on the male lion. I didn't see one in Kenya myself, but I saw female lions. But I do like that mane, and I thought that'd be a lovely thing for the children to paint. In fact, I don't need to zoom in. I'll leave this on the screen like that as they're working, and I'm just going to put some little things. And you can see it's very rough, very loose the way I'm painting this, drawing this for you digitally. It doesn't have to be a photograph. Paintings are not photographs. They're very much an expression of our emotions, of our connection, and also of how we want the picture to look. We don't have to reproduce photographs with our paintings. And if you can accept that the way the paint goes down is also fine. The painting has a voice, you have a voice, the subject has a voice, and it's a conversation between the subject, which is today the lion, your medium, which is probably paint, and your inner view, voice, and what you'd like to put across, what exact colors you're using. And things go wrong when you're painting in inverted commas, and that's also okay, because that's your painting having a voice, having an input to what you're doing. And if you try and control everything in a painting, it quickly stops being a painting. It just becomes an illustration or a drawing or something else. But if you just go with it, it's fine. And if something doesn't go quite right, or the color's not quite right, well, that's okay. You can either I would just go with it, just work with it. It's often the best way. And there's no right and there's no wrong with painting. It's just you do it, and you just, if you like it, you just try again and again, and just enjoy the process. It's just a really nice thing to do.
Looking at about kind of 20. Yeah, oh, absolutely. So yeah, we're looking at about kind of 20 minutes left for today's webinar. So if you have any questions for John or for us around lions, please do let us know. Like I said, my colleague Enya's in the background. She can answer all your lion questions. And obviously John's here as well if you have any questions about his art or painting, or also even his expedition to Kenya as well, where he saw lions, elephants, you name it, loads of wildlife.
On that basis, so I'm just going to take the line off the screen a second. So have a look at what I've done so far, work towards that. Talking about the expedition in Kenya, if I just show you the Last Chance to Paint website. So those of you who've just come straight into the webinar and haven't been to Last Chance to Paint to explore our full sets of work, I really encourage you to do so. This is the front page. It's going to talk all about the project. We've got over 50,000 children a year engaging with this now across 32 countries, over 400 schools, which is really exciting, and we want more and more online. So as you go down, you'll find we're offering 3 expeditions so far: the Amazon rainforest, Borneo, and Africa. So I just jump into Africa, which is what we're doing today. And then this will just bring up the expedition page. And just to point out to the teachers what this then offers you, it will offer you a why we're focusing on Africa, We always look at wildlife, the environment, and the indigenous population. So in this situation, that's the Maasai people. We offer you on this easy download from test.com all the teaching materials you're going to need, the lesson plans, the teacher notes, so they're free, hosted by Born Free. And then working from left to right, you've got videos. So there's a daily video to watch over about 10 days. Show those to your class. They can travel with us. There's our blog. Read that out. You can read about what we're doing every day. It gives a real sense of travel. Questions, you can send questions into me while you're running this project. I will answer them. And if I don't know, Born Free will answer them, because I'll ask Charlie and Charlie will email me and I'll tell you the answer. And in the last tab, art, music and photos. That's all the photographs, useful photographs we've got as reference for you for your paintings. My paintings are in there for your reference as well, like the one over my shoulder here, and others, and music. So you can hear the wonderful Maasai tribe singing as well. Lovely, lovely resources for you. So do dive in there. It talks about why, and then also where, shows you exactly where we went on the map, and then it will offer you that whole world map. So for your geography, it fits in perfectly with the whole curriculum. And then once you've all done that, you get your final pieces, and then you submit them to our world gallery. And then we will, there's a submission page which you must read and look at, and then you can go to the world gallery, and you too can have your paintings of Africa proudly exhibited with children from all over the world here. And that's all free. All right, back to the painting.
Absolutely, they are amazing resources. So yeah, do take a look at those. There are lessons where you can learn more Swahili as well, so you can learn even more words, including Simba as well as all those amazing lessons around plants and different wildlife as well that you'd encounter in Kenya. So definitely worth taking a look at those. But yeah, John, it's looking absolutely beautiful. That mane looks brilliant. But interesting fact for those of you watching today, some male lions, depending on where they live, might only have very tiny manes, or in fact sometimes no manes at all. And that is due to the kind of climate in the area that they live. So in another part of Kenya called Samburu, it is really, really hot. So those male lions, instead of having that beautiful big bushy mane, they might only have like a little scraggly mane, and that's because otherwise they risk they're in danger of overheating. So those lions have adapted and evolved to grow smaller manes, essentially, to keep them nice and cool. Whereas those living at higher altitudes, like this lion here, might need a nice thick mane to keep it warm, especially when it gets a bit chillier at night time.
That is very interesting. And animals do adapt. And I think the problem we've got with climate change isn't the fact that climate changes, because climate does change, and it had always changed over the millennia. I think the problem we've got with it being man-made climate change is the speed at how it's changing, because it does not allow us or wildlife, plants, the environment to adapt fast enough. And that's why this is really quite a dangerous thing. So there are some things we can all do in our own lives to have a positive impact on what we're doing. So you are all in schools today, and your schools might, and this is a might, but there might be some areas that you can improve your environment locally at the school, so that you might be able to put a tree in, a native tree to your area that would not only lock up carbon, but it will increase biodiversity. And you'll be thinking, well, how does that relate to lions? But it does. So if we all lessen our impact on planet Earth, and we're allowed to have an impact, it's normal to leave footprints on the beach, okay? It's just not normal to go to the beach with a JCB digger and dig it up. So leave our footprints as gently as we can. The more gentle we are, all of us, that includes me and Charlie and all of you listening, so if we can have a more plant-based diet, just reduce the amount of meat. If you've got a meat-free Monday, that's great. Make sure you do that. If you can put more biodiversity in with more trees, it all helps, because the weather patterns are influenced by our climate emissions and by how much the world heats up. So in the United Kingdom or America or Northern Europe, if we can lessen what we're doing, then it means those global weather systems will be less impacted. So Kenya's had a 4-year drought. that is arguably, possibly influenced by our actions in Northern Europe, America, and the United Kingdom. So if we can lessen what we're doing, then there's a less of a chance we're going to get these nasty impacts in other ecosystems like Kenya and other places around the world. So everything you can do as a class, as a school, do. Just lessen your impact as wherever you can. Charlie, you might have some other thoughts on that. What else could the children do, families do, to lessen their impact? Some simple things.
Oh, absolutely. You've given some really good examples already there, John. So, as I said, making sure that maybe we're reducing our meat intake. So meat-free Mondays is a great thing, and I know loads of schools already do that, so that's fantastic. Creating wildlife areas, either in your school or in your garden if you have one. Even if you don't have a garden, if you've got something like a window box that you can fill full of lovely wildflowers, that there's food for pollinators, because they're kind of at the bottom of food chains. So if you're providing food for them, you're ultimately providing food for other wildlife, such as birds, hedgehogs, other little mammals as well, and that feeds into the whole ecosystem and helps improve biodiversity, as John said. So little actions like that. Other things you can do, just being a bit kinder, a bit less wasteful with things like energy and water as well. If we conserve water here in the UK, it means that there's more to go around, not only for people but also for wildlife as well. And also by remembering to turn off lights, remembering to turn off your electronics at home, maybe unplug them when they finish charging. That's a really important one. It just means we're not using lots and lots of energy, and in the UK still lots of our energy is still produced by burning fossil fuels, and burning fossil fuels is a one of the kind of main drivers of carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere, which is driving climate change. So remembering to kind of, if you're not using it, turn that electricity off, and then only use it when you need to. That's a really good one. And then also, if you've got things like tablets at home, phones, games consoles, any kind of electronic equipment like that, a really good one is making sure that when they finish their life, that those electronics get recycled, because there's lots of important metals that are found in those electronics, and a lot of these metals are found underneath wild habitats such as rainforests, such as kind of beautiful salt pans in South America, and also different areas in Africa as well. So if we need to dig up more metals to make more equipment because we're just throwing them in the bin and not recycling them, that's going to damage those habitats, that's going to impact wildlife. So recycle those electronics, those metals get used again, and we can leave the metals that are in the ground there, and we don't need to destroy those habitats. So yeah, next time your phone breaks, your tablet breaks, remember to recycle it. That's a really important one.
It is, and one of the things we do with Last Chance to Paint is all of the children listening to this, we put you in, well, we don't put you in contact, but we show you your contemporaries. So we did a lovely school run. We walked to school with a young boy called Vincent in Kenya, and you will enjoy this. So please watch our videos. You can join me as I talk to Vincent on his school run from his home to his school, and your actions by treading more gently on the planet help Vincent, help him to have food every day, help him to have a better education. And we also did a lovely video with the Maasai women, and I think you'll learn a lot from that. There are things with the drought that you would never imagine. You imagine maybe zebras running out of water and maybe collapsing. You'd imagine the grass becoming really dry and maybe fires and things. What you wouldn't imagine probably is your contemporaries not being able to go to school anymore. And we go into the videos. So please watch that. I won't go into detail now because you need to watch the kind of full 10-minute video and have a think about it. It will hopefully super inspire you to do what Charlie said, to tread gently and to make sure everything's recycled. And certainly with some of the precious metals in the equipment, it does impact young people like yourselves in communities around the world who have to go and dig this stuff out of the ground. Luckily, this is being actioned all over the place, and a really good technology are electric cars. At some point, hopefully, we can all move to electric cars. But the batteries for electric cars have had a few issues over the early years. Those are broadly being solved now. So the cobalt's coming out of the batteries, which has been mined in not such a great way. But that's broadly out of the battery. So that's fixed. And we are iterating and evolving very quickly, which is very encouraging. And in a few years' time, when the electric cars are being recycled, but they've got very big batteries, we won't need to mine any of those materials ever again, because we will have a constant supply at that stage. So at some point, we will become completely energy sustainable. And that's where we're moving towards, which is really exciting. So I'm always aware that with the project, we need to keep hope very much alive and be really positive. And you are all going into an amazing future of innovation, clean energy, and hopefully lots of spare time and lots of time to do amazing things and to connect to your contemporaries around the world. So I see this as, even though we are in a concerning time, we're moving through that because of knowledge. And I think that you are going to all end up in some amazing futures. That's what I really hope. But it will happen because you, and I'm talking to you children, take ownership of this. And you don't just shout at Charlie and I, who are older than you, and say it's your fault, fix it. It's nobody's fault, but we all need to take responsibility and be the change. And I hope that if you follow our Last Chance to Paint schemes of work and you get to meet Vincent and his contemporaries in Kenya, and you get to meet the children in the Yawanawa tribe in the Amazon rainforest, and you get to meet the scientists and the families in Borneo and the Panan tribe, that you'll realize that you do want to be the change. You do want to take part. That's my big hope for this project. So yeah, we will see. I can't measure that. I can't ever measure that. But I hope by painting this lion today, it's giving you something that you will put on the fridge or hang up in your kitchen, and your families, your parents, your guardians, your loved ones will probably leave it there for the next 20 years, and it will go horribly yellow and get covered in dust, but it's going to radiate from there in some way everything we've spoken about today, and remind you to remind your family why it's important to tread gently, and that a lion is integral to our existence on planet Earth, because we're all interconnected. If you take away too many things, the ecosystem starts to fall apart very slowly, but starts to fall apart. And we need it. We need everything from the tiny little flies and from the bees that pollinate our food to the lions that keep ecosystems in check. We're all connected in a way that we really didn't understand even 20 years ago, but we are increasingly able to understand with that.
Absolutely. And it's just important to know that we all work together, and if we all made just a tiny change in our daily lives, we can all make a huge difference, because there's a lot of people on the planet. So if we all just did that one thing to make our impact on the environment just that little bit less, we'd all make a huge difference.
It
So
does.
yeah, we all have the power.
There are approximately, and not every child is able to make a change, and not every child is having a big impact. So take this figure with a grain of salt here, because I'm not saying every child can have an impact here, but because obviously if you're living in a Maasai tribal situation, your impact on planet Earth is zero negative and broadly entirely positive. However, there are around 2 billion children on planet Earth. So you have a huge ability to make a positive change. Huge.
Absolutely. And there are people doing amazing work already as well. So it's not just all on you guys, not just all on the kids. So organizations like Born Free, we are working to help protect these animals in their environment, to help people coexist with lions as well. So in the regions of Amboseli and Meru, lions do live alongside people, and it can be quite tricky living alongside lions. But what Born Free does to help is we help create things called predator-proof bomas. Now, bomas are essentially kind of like fencing around an area where livestock sleep, so cattle, goats, sheep, for example. And lions and leopards and hyenas, they can attack animals living in these bomas. And again, like we said, going back to conflict between people and animals, people's livelihoods are taken away because lions are eating their livestock. So to help protect lions and people and their livestock as well, Born Free helps to reinforce these bomas and make them predator proof by using special steel fencing, providing essentially doors and gates, meaning that there's no kind of gaps in there as well. And it means that those animals living in that boma, when they're kept in at night, to hopefully stay nice and safe, they are much, much safer. And it means that not only are the livestock safe, not only are the people in the communities much safer as well, also the lions are kept safe because they aren't impacting on those local communities, on those local people as well.
And these bomas are amazing. So again, you'll see this in our films. We'll take you to a boma. You can meet the Maasai tribe. You can hear them singing. You'll watch me paint a complete painting in the boma, learn all about it. So please watch our full set of work. And the work Born Free is doing is remarkable and making a huge difference. So how are we doing with our paintings? I haven't spoken about it, but you will have noticed I've just been bringing in more light and shade in the background. I'm bringing in some African grasses, the sort of elephant grass that the Maasai tribe will use for roofing their homes, which are made from cow dung. Just completely sustainable form of life they have. It's just amazing. And yeah, and just putting some horizontal sort of shadows in the savannah in the background here, just building up the picture. So hopefully you're getting to a point where these are looking like lovely paintings. And what would really help us, Born Free and Last Chance to Paint, is if you can share some of this. So do that form that Charlie was talking about, but if you can share them, if you're able to, on social media, on the X platform, Twitter, or on Facebook, and at us in, look up our social media handles, at us in, we will reshare, certainly Last Chance to Paint will reshare, we'll celebrate what you're doing, and the photographs that if you're able to share photographs of your class working, that all helps us to keep this available to you for free while we find funding to keep the whole project going. So do share it. And if you want to share your lion paintings you've done today, we'd be very happy to put up a section on the World Gallery for you. So just follow the submission form for the World Gallery. And if we get enough in, then we'll put a little lion gallery up. We did that for the last webinar, didn't we, Charlie, for the orcas, which seemed to be really popular.
Absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. Now, yeah, we're reaching the final minutes of our webinar. I hope that you guys have enjoyed creating your paintings today. We would absolutely love to see them, as John said. So yeah, do send those in. But thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope that you have learned a lot about lions, and we hope that you're inspired as well to go and help make a big change in the world. So thank you so much for joining us today.